To this. Last week Mr. Wilton J. Leverett, I quote from his card, ran over a broken bottle outside our gate, and came in to visit the institution while his chauffeur was mending the tire. Betsy showed him about. He took an intelligent interest in everything he saw, particularly our new camps. This is an exhibit which appeals to men. He ended by removing his coat and playing baseball with 2 tribes of Indians. After an hour and a half he suddenly looked at his watch, begged for a glass of water, and bowed himself off. We had entirely forgotten the episode until this afternoon, when the expressman drove up to the door with a present for the John Grier Home from the chemical laboratories of Wilton J. Leverett. It was a barrel, well, anyway, a good-sized keg, full of liquid green soap. Did I tell you that the seeds for our garden came from Washington? A polite present from Gordon Halleck and the U.S. government. As an example of what the past regime did not accomplish, Martin Schalderwitz, who has spent 3 years on this pseudo-farm, knew no more than to dig a grave 2 feet deep and bury his lettuce seeds. Oh, you can't imagine the number of fields in which we need making over. But of course you, of all people, can imagine. Little by little I am getting my eyes wide open, and things that just looked funny to me at first, now, oh dear, it's very disillusioning. Every funny thing that comes up seems to have a little tragedy wrapped inside it. Just at present we are paying anxious attention to our manners. Not orphan asylum manners, but dancing school manners. There is to be nothing Uriah Heepish about our attitude toward the world. The little girls make curtsies when they shake hands, and the boys remove caps and rise when a lady stands, and push in chairs at the table. Tommy Woolsey shot Sadie Kate into her soup yesterday, to the glee of all observers except Sadie, who is an independent young damsel and doesn't care for these useless masculine attentions. At first the boys were inclined to jeer, but after observing the politeness of their hero, Percy de Forest Witherspoon, they have come up to the mark like little gentlemen. Punch is paying a call this morning. For the last half hour, while I have been busily scratching away to you, he has been established in the window seat, quietly and undestructively engaged with colored pencils. Betsy, en passant, just dropped a kiss upon his nose. "Ah, g'wan," said Punch, blushing quite pink, and wiping off the caress with a fine show of masculine indifference. But I notice he has resumed work upon his red and green landscape with heightened ardor, an attempt at whistling. We'll succeed yet in conquering that young man's temper. Tuesday. The doctor is in a very grumbly mood today. He called just as the children were marching in to dinner, whereupon he marched, too, and sampled their food. And, oh, my dear, the potatoes were scorched, and such a clishmaclaver as that man made! It is the first time the potatoes ever have been scorched, and you know that scorching sometimes happens in the best of families. But you would think from Sandy's language that the cook had scorched them on purpose in accordance with my orders. As I have told you before, I could do very nicely without Sandy. Wednesday. Yesterday being a wonderful sunny day, Betsy and I turned our backs upon duty and motored to the very fancy home of some friends of hers, where we had tea in an Italian garden. Punch and Sadie Kate had been such good children all day that at the last moment we telephoned for permission to include them too. "Yes, indeed, do bring the little dears," was the enthusiastic response. But the choice of Punch and Sadie Kate was a mistake. We ought to have taken Mamie Prout, who has demonstrated her ability to sit. I shall spare you the details of our visit. The climax was reached when Punch went gold fishing in the bottom of the swimming pool. Our host pulled him out by an agitated leg, and the child returned to the asylum swathed in that gentleman's rose-colored bathrobe. What do you think? Dr. Robin MacRae, in a contrite mood for having been so intensely disagreeable yesterday, has just invited Betsy and me to take supper in his olive-green house next Sunday evening at 7 o'clock in order to look at some microscopic slides. The entertainment, I believe, is to consist of a scarlet fever culture, some alcoholic tissue, and a tubercular gland. These social attentions bore him excessively, but he realizes that if he is to have free scope in applying his theories to the institution, he must be a little polite to its superintendent. I have just read this letter over, and I must admit that it skips lightly from topic to topic, but though it may not contain news of any great moment, I trust you will realize that its writing has consumed every vacant minute during the last 3 days. I am, most fully occupied, SALLIE McBRIDE. P.S. A blessed woman came this morning and said she would take a child for the summer, one of the sickest, weakest, neediest babies I could give her. She had just lost her husband and wanted something hard to do. Isn't that really very touching? End of section 10.